Hi everybody, Janet String Theory here. Today I wanted to spend a few minutes to talk to you about that skein of yarn in your collection that you bought. Maybe you were on vacation, or maybe you walked into String Theory and the colors just called your name. We say, the skein that makes your heart sing. That beautiful color, or combination of colors, probably in a fingering weight or sock yarn, because it's just one skein, and you treated yourself and it's been in your stash, your collection for a while, and you're kind of wondering, I think it's time to wear this one. What am I going to make with it? So I wanted to give you some clues to figure out what you got and what you might want to do with it. So we're going to start with the easy one. So suppose that you picked, if you picked a semi-solid, that's the easiest, right? Because any stitch definition, any stitch combination or lace or cables, unless you picked black, is probably going to be beautiful in it. And so the solids are probably not still in your collection. You've probably used those up already. The next category that's easiest is the speckles. And speckles, they've been around for a couple years, and this is an example of a speckle. This is Migration Yarn Monarch, and you can see it's a cream base, and then there's speckles in there, and brown and burgundy and little purple and a little chartreuse, a little fuzz in my mouth. So that's a speckle. And speckles are very popular because you get beautiful color in them, but they're pretty easy to work with, because what you do is you take a color that's in here and combine it. So you've got a 2 skein shawl with this, and although this dark green, this is Loden, and this color is birch, is not in the birch, there is a light green in here. And so if you just pick the dark, then you've got a nice light dark contrast, and it's going to be beautiful. So let me show you how speckles knit up. This is the Usonian shawl, and you can see this is birch, and it's just mostly cream with little speckles of color. And then you've got the Loden green. You can see in this why you want the contrast, because in the stripes, if you had picked a color that was mostly cream, or if you had picked one of the lighter speckles in there for your semi-solid, you're not going to get the stripe definition. It's going to be kind of muddy in there. So great 2 skein project. This is one of those asymmetrical triangles, you can see, and lots of fun stitch patterns. So very popular, and great way to show you what speckle and semi-solid looks like. Okay, so let's go on to the tough stuff. We have several very variegated yarns that people fall in love with head over heels. So this one was very popular. This is Knitted Wit's Her Story collection, and it's called Brave Enough, and it was in honor of Amanda Gorman. And so what I recommend you do when you see a skein like this and you're just, just in love with it, wondering what to do with it, first thing you want to do is open it up. So undo it, and you can see all the different colors in here. So part of it is you want to see the colors, but mostly for when you're trying to decide what it's going to look like knit up, is to figure out, okay, there's a section in here that is orange, and that might be 20 stitches. And then you've got kind of an equal section of this magenta, and then you're back to the orange and the yellow, a little shorter, but you kind of want to envision how this is going to play together based on how much of any one color there is. Very little bit of green in here compared to the other side, which is, you know, the warm colors, right? So that gives you an idea how the colors are going to play. And variegated yarns have a tendency to pool. Pooling is when you get a pool of orange, and then you get a pool of green, and then you get a pool of purple, as opposed to everything just being mixed up together. And some people love pooling and other people do not like pooling. So I'm going to show you an example. Here's another example of a beautiful variegated yarn. And this one is made by Naima Bond. It's Sister Ananse. She did this color exclusively for us. It's called Lakeside. And when you open it up, you can see, if I can get it, that half the skein is this limey electric green. And then the other half of the skein is blue and turquoise. So it's going to be primarily this color with some of that mixed in. The next thing you can do to see how it's going to knit up is wind it into a ball. So these are my leftovers. But you can see it mixes the color up and gives you more of an idea of what it's going to look like. And I knit this skein into this cowl called Shaking the Tree. And why I particularly liked it in this pattern was in the lace section, the color moves all over the place, so you don't get the pooling. In the stockinette section, you can see that there is a pooling. So you can see that in the lace section where the stitches move because you've got decreases and increases and you're kind of moving the threads this way, it almost gives you a stripe. But if you're just doing plain knits on one side and purls on the other, well, this is a cowl, so knit, 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 stockinette, you're going to get this section here that is the blue and green, and the section here that's the turquoise and green, and that would be a pool. So depending on whether you like pooling or not, that is going to let you know what you want to do going forward. You can see in this example, this is another Shaking the Tree, but you can see this colorway is not pooling. And the reason is because this colorway is Migration Traveler, and this is mostly orange when you open it up, with just the tiniest section, hardly even a section, like it's a little bit of green and some red speckles. So just that little section out of the whole thing. I guess there's a little more green over there. So this is a little, not quite a speckle yarn, but not very variegated either. And that results in less pooling, as you can see. This colorway, this is Migration Traveler, which is exclusive to String Theory, and the colorway is Glen Ellen Gold, and that was exclusive to the Good Vibes Yarn Tour. So don't fall in love with this one because it's not available. But it's a great example of showing you that type of yarn. Okay, so if you've got something that's very variegated and you're not excited about the pooling, let me show you a couple patterns here that will help you out with that. Okay, so this is Maximize by Ann Weaver. And you can see she's done this slip stitch pattern in a charcoal gray, and then a speckle, and then a very variegated yarn. And you don't get the pooling because you've got this slip stitch, which takes the color from below and moves it to the row above, and it just interrupts the color. So you can see. So patterns with slip stitches in them or yarn over, knit two together kind of things, that's going to move the color around and it's going to disrupt the pooling. And this pattern is called Maximize, and it's by Ann Weaver, and it is an asymmetrical triangle shawl. So easy to wear. I love how you see all the colors when you wear it. So that is that one. Another thing that you can do to avoid the pooling is this pattern. And this is called the Spell Cowl by Shannon, Squire. And what we did in this is you double strand the yarn. And so by double stranding the yarn, you are mixing it up just in general, because this, one strand of your yarn might have the dark pinks in it and the other strand might have the light pinks, and it moves it together. So in this particular color, in this particular cowl, we took this pink variegated and double stranded it. And then there is this color, which has all sorts of teals and pinks and creams and charcoal, little chartreuse in there, a little bit of everything, and double stranded that. And you can see that's not pooling either. And then you take a strand of the pink and a strand of the dark and put that together. And so it mixes the color up, makes for a beautiful cowl. And it's also on a size 9 needle. So if you've got the skein of yarn and you're usually knitting on thicker things and wondering why you have a fingering weight skein in your collection, just hold 2 strands together. Find another color that has some of the same colors or not. It doesn't even, it could be something that's completely contrasted, and just hold 2 strands together. You can hold, to double strand the same color, you take the inside pull and the outside pull and hold them together. A lot of people are confused by double stranding. It's really easy, really, really easy. I highly recommend it. Recommend that you try it. Okay, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to say about using variegated yarns is a lot of times what people will do is pick a shawl pattern that has thin stripes in it and put it with a semi-solid, which is a brilliant way to use it. When you have skinny stripes of a very variegated, it just gives you these beautiful pops of color. It's a great combination. But our tendency is to look at something like this and say, okay, to put with it, I'm gonna take, a yarn that's this color, because that's in there. Or I'm going to look at this and I'm going to, I love this purple color and there's a skein that matches it. So that would be great. That's what I'm gonna do. But what you wanna think about when you're doing skinny stripes is you wanna take a color that's not in the skein that you're trying to match. So I wouldn't go with, the purple color or the magenta color, simply because what happens is the stripe gets muddy. There's not a clean line. There's not a clean separation. At some point, you're going to get the purple skein and this right next to each other, and your stripe is going to disappear. So you want to pick something that's not in this skein. Now this skein has almost every color in it. So you kind of have to go, I think I would go with a gray or a cream would be really pretty. Or find something that is a different color. Like maybe you could pick a lemon yellow instead of this gold yellow, or maybe you pick a yikes, a pale pink. You know, there's this pink in there, but if you did a really pale pink, that might be cool, or a pale blue would be pretty. You know, something that's not in here. And then this, you know, something like this would be super cool. Put a purple, put a red, and, you know, all sorts of choices when you have here. But our tendency usually is to look at a really gorgeous variegated yarn and go, oh, I'll pull this color out and then it'll match. And yeah, it'll match, but then you won't have stripes. So those are my tips for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.